Okay, we're live on Canada Day. Oh,
Canada,
Canada. Okay,
greatest
well,
country
that's
on
it.
earth. All right, we're done.
Okay, well, we totally got owned this week though.
Yeah, we did. Unfortunate, but we kind of saw it coming. Wait, are we live on both Twitch and YouTube? Oh
Yeah, we're
shit!
live on both right now.
Oh snap, dude.
If
Dude, I got
anyone's watching.
yeah, dude. Wait, do you have it open? All the stuff?
What do
Dude,
you mean stuff?
I don't even have the shit open. The stuff open. Sorry, the channel open. I don't even have our. Dude, we gotta have our. Okay, dude. Work in progress, yo. This is some work in progress stuff.
Oh, anyways,
All right.
well, we're here talking about Canada on this glorious day.
Yes, the most glorious of glorious days. And
How are we gonna have our redemption arc after we've been humiliated by Trump?
there is no redemption arc, dude. We're just gonna continue. Gonna get rammed. We're gonna get rammed, ransacked. Sad day.
Can we make it like more pleasant?
More pleasant. I have nothing but bleakness ahead. Like, who's our national champion now? Shopify? Is it Shopify?
It's Shopify, Lululemon, and yeah, that's it.
Tim Hortons is dead.
Tim Hortons, Burger King.
Yeah, exactly. Dead. I can't think of. Oil prices going down. Lumber is getting cooked. Fertilizer. There's nothing good in Canada, man. Property prices.
Well,
Education.
medical equipment. Isn't that something that Canada does somewhat well?
I mean, you can't really compete with China, right?
That's true. China is spending a lot on pharma, and that is
Yeah, like China's making like leaps and bounds in the medical. Like, dude, like you can't even make vaccines without China now.
all the base ingredients, right?
Yeah, precursors and all of that. So it's just really tough. But this week is signaled the toughest. So for those who don't know, we backed down from, or Mark Carney backed down from this digital service tax that he wanted to impose. And honestly, we talked about this last time. We didn't think it was going to happen. It's probably not going to go anywhere. But that was hope. That
I
Canada,
thought like a fake battle. At least it was like literally the next day he capitulated.
yeah, I think if he went ahead with this, honestly, of all the things, this is probably the most nuclear. So like you could say, hey, we don't buy. Remember last time we talked about they don't buy U.S. military hardware. That's fine, right? Like you buy Swedish hardware. That's still American hardware. You start a tariff war. That's fine. U.S. doesn't, like it doesn't export a lot of product to Canada. But if you start doing this like digital service tax thing, then first of all, you hit Trump where the billionaires are, right? The ones that got him in power. Number two, this sets a really bad precedent, right? And this is the whole thing that he wants to get rid of in Europe. And we talked about this before. Again, so our economy is becoming more and more digitized, right? So like the biggest portion of the value is now part of the digital economy. And by taxing that part, right, which we as Canadians we actually should, because that part is getting sent over to the US. All that value is getting shipped to the US, right? Getting made by US companies and not staying in Canada. That's not good, right? That's not good for Canadian economy. So like, right, this was the sort of nuclear strike to sort of really say, hey, we're gonna go it alone.
But why did like companies like Shopify go against it? Were they just really afraid of U.S. retaliation? Or just killing Shopify in the U.S.?
Yeah, like if they start doing stuff like that, right? And Shopify can't win.
Yeah.
Like Shopify would probably be forced to move to the US.
Oh right,
You know what I
right.
mean?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Like just picture the US can do a lot of things. You know, to this was the, like, outside of some sort of like military action on the US, or like some sort of like actual, you know, economic war, um this is probably as close as we got. So like from now on it's just gonna be whatever. Like this trade talk stuff is not gonna go anywhere, and Trump sets the terms, because there's no more escalation at this point. There's nothing to escalate with, because Carney's like ultimate bluff got called.
So he
In
has
like,
no.
in
So he
like
doesn't have the cards.
yeah, he has no cards in like 2 days. You know, like he caved. So yeah, you know, this trade deal, it might drag on for a while. Canada might drag their feet, but at this point, the war's over. You know,
So,
like
so what happens next?
what happens next is just Trump decides how much they want to bone Canada, pretty much,
How much they
right?
want to
Like,
extract from Canada?
yeah, like in what areas they can, right? So Trump's said a lot about like agriculture, right? Trump wants cheaper uh, natural resources. He'll probably get that, you know, cheaper natural resources, more open markets. There's nothing Canada can do anymore. You know, it's pretty sad actually. Like so Canada, like, in a way, Trump's right. We are freeloading, right? Because Canada really should have had no military spending, right? Like we really wasted, like, all the money we invested into the military was actually like strategically a huge waste of money, right? And I don't mean that as like I'm not patriotic. I actually, like, I love the military. You know, it's just that no country would attack Canada, right? Nobody dares to attack Canada, because behind it is America. Like if you attack Canada, you're basically attacking America. So like, what should Canada do? It should almost do what the Europeans did, which is do nothing. Like, don't invest in their military and let it like degrade, right? And invest that money into building out infra and like growing your
and the
economy from,
and the welfare state.
yeah, right. Well, not the you don't have to do it like the welfare state, but for example, building that pipeline, right, that connects east from west, working on the bureaucracies, right, making it easier for people to move across provinces, you know, moving goods and services across provinces, right? Um, these things require capital, and it needs to be done for your country to become more efficient and more competitive.
Okay,
Right.
let's respond to like the reactions like that I've seen online, like Reddit. Like Americans seem like they don't seem like to be too happy that Trump was able to do this. The Canadians don't seem like they're too happy to do this, unless you're the MAGA crowd. I guess they were pretty happy. It seems like there's some solidarity amongst Americans that for Canadians that we're getting pillaged here.
Pillage? I don't know if, I mean, we're not pillaged yet, but we don't know what the terms are. But yes, right? Like all of this, like European, like stand with a European thing is just gonna go down the drain, because ultimately, you know, we talked about this. It's just like Canada has no legs of its own, right? And Canada's never built legs, you know. So we skip leg day basically. You know, we just followed our big bro who's already got strong legs, right? Like we just went and did Arms Day all day. Like what the heck were we doing? I don't get it, right? Like we spent all this money going to Afghanistan on some crusade, right? Right? And it's like our big bro can go you know, go to the clubs and stuff, right? You know, in Afghanistan and Iraq, right? It can do moral grandstanding by alienating some foreigner for like other countries by saying, "Yo, like we're right." where it's gotten us. Now we're like trapped in a corner, and Big Bro's like, "Hey, man, I want some of your stuff." You're like, "Help, help, Europe, help!" Right? Like Europe's our mama, technically, right? Like, mama, help. And US is like, I'm your new stepdad, bro. just slap the crap out of you, just beat the crap out of it. I'm not okay. I'm not.
But Canada's like been.
I'm not condoning domestic violence, but like, right? Britain signed a trade deal with the US before Canada even did. You know what I'm saying? Like, holy crap. How's Britain's gonna help Canada? Insane.
Well, but Britain got really screwed on their trade deal, right?
Yeah. Well, it's basically not really a trade deal. Right? It's basically like sign it or you're not going to get your nukes fixed. You know what I mean? Like, we'll rug your nuclear arsenal. Like, what are you going to do? Right? So, like, they're going to drag it out. They're going to drag this stuff out. So, like, if you say, like, hey, like, will the terms ever be finalized? No.
No, but wouldn't, like, this, like, really ruin the relationship between the US and its puppets? Like, Canada is probably the most obedient of its puppets, right?
Right. But what are you gonna do as the US, right? Like, you're desperate, right? Like there are two nations that are most attached to the US, and that's like Canada and Japan. These are like the two countries. And both of them haven't signed trade deals. Because they're the ones that the US can really screw over. And they're the ones that, you know, have the most to lose. So like they can't just like give everything up because they'll be forced to give everything. You know what I mean? Right? Like, so I think like what's happening is they're gonna postpone the negotiations for as long as they can, and maybe even like drag it out until even like Trump's gone, and then hopefully like there'll be a more reasonable person in the next administration. Because maybe Trump's asking for way too much, you know.
Well, you saw it from the first tariffs, right? He tariffed Canada first out of every country in the world. I mean, prior to Liberation Day, right? He tariffed like Canada and then Mexico, I think.
That's because they can, right? Like have you seen like he didn't really walk back the Canadian tariffs, right? But like he walked back the Chinese tariffs real quick, right? Like you know what I mean? Like he right? Like anytime he does some stuff to China, he's like, oh, yo, we're gonna do this stuff, and China's like, okay, we're gonna restrict rare earth.
Well, the Chinese stuff is like not fungible, right? I think like the electronics and the rare earth, I think those are the most critical.
Yeah. So it's like, and again, right? And it's just like, okay, well, Canada has a lot of oil. Canada has a lot of natural resources that the U.S. needs. Canada has all these other parts. The truth is, U.S. has all of this stuff. You know what I mean? U.S. has the oil. U.S. has the natural resources. U.S. is a resource-abundant country. You know, it's missing labor. Like cheap labor, right? Canada doesn't provide that. And then it's like, okay, well, Canada provides these highly specialized manufacturing. Trump wants that back in the US, right? Trump wants all of that stuff back in the US, right? And Canada, yeah.
So all like those like heavy industrial, like German like industries, they're gonna
machine
move to
tooling,
the US.
auto machine tooling, right? All of that. They want it back in the U.S., right? He started this stuff with Germany too, right? He's like, yo, I'm gonna take all this heavy industry stuff, and you can say, oh, it's for national security purposes. Doesn't really matter, right? Like whether it's for jobs, for national security, for whatever, right? Like his delusion of like make America great again, like that's part of his plan, right? Right? But the truth is like Canada can't really bring anything to the table outside of like a digital service tax, right? That was the Trump part.
So how's the Canadian public gonna react to this? Like, are they just gonna also just take it?
I don't think Canadians understand sort of the gravity of what happened, right? Like in the trade war sense, this was like, you know, this was like the final push.
Checkmate.
Well, it's like the last offensive, right? This is like the Battle of the Bulge, you know, in World War II. You know, it's like, well, you can say Canada was doomed to lose anyways, but, you know, maybe they were hoping for some better stuff. You know, they could hold on to some land or something. But like, you know, this is, you know, this is the midday. You know, if this was the Pacific Theater, it'd be midday. You know what I mean?
You
Like
mean but Midway?
midway, yeah, midway, exactly, midway.
Yeah.
You know, or
Uh,
like the Battle of Britain. Like you know what I mean? Like
The Last Stand.
yeah, the Last Stand. This was it. There's nothing left, and it's pretty like I don't want to be so depressed. You know, like right? It's like I want Canada to win. You know,
Is like 51st state time.
51st state. Probably not yet, but yeah, this reaffirms the fact that we are the 51st state in a way. You know, like
What other levers can Trump pull to force that now? Because you see that Carney has no cards.
well, Trump doesn't need to do anything really, right? Like Trump's already tariffed all of this stuff, right? Trump's already tariffed. He's not walking back the tariffs. He can just add more and more tariffs later. You know what I mean? And then Canada can escalate, but Canada's not, right? That's
Just
how
stand up for.
right. Like in the trade war, it's always like you escalate, I escalate, right? Or in wars, there's an escalation ladder, right? You escalate, you escalate. But we've shown that we can't escalate anymore, right? And they can spin it however they want, which is like, oh, we're why would we hurt ourselves? Why would we hurt ourselves? It's dumb to do that. No, it's not. It means you don't have the strength to do that, right? Like
What do you mean? What do you mean? Having retaliatory tariffs?
yeah, like you can't retaliate, right? Like why would you hurt your own consumers? That like yo, that's because your own consumers get hurt a lot more. You see what I'm saying?
You mean
Right?
your producers?
Yeah, it's like if you're Singapore, right? Like Singapore said the same thing, right? If you listen to Prime Minister Singapore, which is, but we wouldn't retaliate. We're not gonna right cause more pain for our consumers. That's true because number one, they're not really reliant on the U.S. You know what I mean? Like they're not dependent on the U.S. for their survival. So, if we don't retaliate, it doesn't really matter. If you tariff us, it hurts, right? But it's not going to hurt us that bad. We don't see a need to. But for Canada, it hurts bad. You know what I'm saying? Right? Like, you can be a big, right? There's a time to say you're the big man, and there's a time to punch back, right? Like, when the guy, like, gives you a light shove because he's a big guy and he, like, bumps you on the shoulder, right, while they're walking by, and you're a weak guy, you go about your day. You're like, okay, whatever, right? Like, fuck it, I'm not gonna go bump him back. Like there's no point, right? I'll let a bigger guy, I'll let China go bump him, right? I'll let you go bump him, right? But when this guy comes and you're walking down the road and this guy just like punches you in the face, and you're like, yo, you know what? I'm the bigger man. I'm just gonna walk it off. Right? And the thing is, he keeps punching you in the face. It's not like he stops. You know what I'm saying? You're like, he just repeatedly bashes you in the face. Right? Like you can say, like, this guy, he's bumping you repeatedly. Okay, fine. Like over time he'll bruise, but like whatever, right? Like you're just getting bumped on. You're like, yeah, it's a really busy day. I'm a weak guy. I'll just get bumped around. It's fine. But this guy just chasing after you, mauling your face. What can we do? What I wish we'd done is build a great Canadian firewall. Recapture some of that digital economy.
But wouldn't like you said, when they just forced Shopify to move to the US, like literally, and all the other SaaS companies and like medium-sized companies that Canada still does have.
Yeah, that's a problem, right? That's what happens when we're like so intertwined. Like Canada and the US is the most intertwined a country. Like basically there is no Canadian economy. It's just the American economy. right? Like all the digital value is in the US, and like we sell everything to the US. You know, like no part, and they are like 5-6 times larger population, right? So it's just like our to keep our current economic situation, if we're gonna not like we're gonna split from the US, we would need to consume 5 or 6 times more. That's not happening, right? Like we don't have enough demand for that.
So we already had the last decade with Trudeau. So
Yeah.
if you were Prime Minister, Carney, what would you do for the next
Right now,
decade? Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure
Other than 51st state, I think.
other than 51st state, y'all did 51st state seems like a great solution. Like practically speaking, it's not a bad solution. We can talk about that next time. But today's Canada today, so like we can't do that today. We fight for we fight for Canada today, right?
I got my flag here.
Yeah. We're patriots today, so we're patriots every day. But today it's like if I was Carney, you have to go to the other side of the room. I'd start courting the Indians again, courting India again, courting China again. You have to.
I don't think that's working right now. The India situation is getting worse.
Court, the Arab nations again. Like we did a lot.
Didn't Trudeau like literally destroy relations with all those countries?
Yeah, exactly. Because he followed the American, he's like I'm not even sure. He dude, he wanted a Nobel Peace Prize or something, or like a humanitarian prize. But it's like, yo, this guy forgot what he was supposed to do. It's like, we should have let the Indian stuff go, the Saudi stuff go, right? And nothing to do with us, right? We let the Huawei stuff go, right?
Yeah.
Man, right? Now, right? It's like goddamn.
Well, we still got Japan, Korea. Like, how viable are those as allies? Because they want to decouple from the U.S. as well, right?
I don't think Japan can. So like Japan's stuck in a similar situation as Canada. Japan's a bit better, okay, but they're in a similar situation. Japan's kind of screwed. We can talk about that on like a Japan day, right? But and Korea, right? They just tariffed Korea's like washing machines, right? Like Samsung's like all the stuff, right? The U.S. tariffed Korea stuff too, right? And Korea is going through a population decline, right? So it's really tough. It's like if this is some like dream. If I get I have a dream, all right? I have a dream that one day Canada can ship its natural resources to other countries, and we will trade with people and create better lives for Canadians, regardless of the domestic situation in other countries. You see what I'm saying? Like, man, it's so bad. Like, I'm on TikTok and it's just like all these shorts are like, Hamilton sucks, Brampton sucks, Toronto sucks. Don't ever come to Montreal. Blah. It's just like, yo. Like, don't come to Canada.
How do you break out of this doom cycle? Like people, like all these Canadians are so down because like last decade, they're not longer patriots. It's sort of like Britain right now. A lot of people are leaving Britain. All the able and wealthy people are leaving Britain right now. I can also see that with Canada in the future, right? It's already happening.
Well, yeah, you got it. So there's two things how this is going to happen. So first, all the smart wealth people, or whatever you want to call them, they're going to leave. Okay. And the second thing is there will be a group of people that can't leave. So who are we talking about here? We're talking about like, I don't know, the oligarchs, Fortinos, right? Bell, Rogers, like these people, right? And they'll be fighting for a bigger slice of the pie because they need to make more money, right? Because the economy is going to shit, so they need to make more money. And then the will suffer more until eventually some populist takes over. That's usually how, if you look at it, how the cookie always crumbles throughout history. And this won't happen until enough wealth destruction has happened. So like wealth inequality has gotten even worse, and part of the rich start fighting amongst each other. Okay, so like revolutions only happen when the rich or the powerful are also on the side of the populists. So it's never just a pure populism, right? So like even like Donald Trump, like if we talk about Donald Trump, like this time he has the backing of billionaires, right? And before he had the backing of Thiel, right? If we're talking about his first term. So you always need that. And in authoritarian countries, they needed the backing of the military, or part of the military was not happy, right? That's when you'll see a change in government, right? So you always need some part of the elite to defect. If the elites are not part of the elites, they're still happy with the status quo, or they don't feel like the winds are shifting, then it's not going to happen. It doesn't really matter how loud the protest gets. And you can see right now, Canadians aren't even protesting. We have this moment of national solidarity, and that Carney's trying to pull us through, right?
There's like the welfare state is collapsing though, right? You see healthcare and like
it just has to collapse. Everything needs to collapse before the revolution happens, right? Like you're not going to have a revolution before the collapse.
Yeah. But do you think that this populism is going to come from the left or right? Like, is it going to be like socialism, or is it going to be like more nationalism, like Trump?
I think it's going to be socialism. And you can already see it in the Democratic left, right? Like in the U.S., right? There's this growing sense of like wealth inequality. It's always led a rise to socialism, and Canada's in a precarious spot. Right, like we're basically like a vassal to the U.S. in a way. It's hard to see that we can decouple or like maintain independence without.
Are you talking about culturally and politically, like the populace?
Well, like let's say we want to actually do some hard changes, right? Like capture part of our digital economy, enact industrial policies that are against U.S. interests but pro Canadian interest. So for example, like let's say we want to restore trade relationships with China, with India, right? Like with the Middle East, right? Let's say we want to compete against the US in some critical areas, right? Like the US will do what it always does, which is just crush us, right? Like buy us out, right? Force us to give up stuff, right? It did that to the Japanese. Right? Like we have this idea that the US doesn't do this kind of stuff. Yeah, right now it only wants to compete in a free market when it's the leader.
Well, why did US allow Nippon Steel to buy US Steel in that case then?
When I was talking about Japan, like what they did to Japan, I'm talking about the cars, right? So like they tariffed Japanese cars, right? Like they did a bunch of stuff to the Japanese economy to like stall it out, right? But in terms of why did they let Japan buy steel? Why not? Right? Because the steel mill it's never going to be profitable anyways.
So you're
like it's relevant, Like if there was a day where U.S. actually needed the steel for war or something, they can just restart it, or they can
just seize it.
Yeah, they can seize it. It's political will, right? Like when there's the will of the people to do it, like let's say if the U.S. is attacked, they can spin up a bunch of steel mills in like 2 months because people will be willing to work in the steel mills. You know what I'm saying? Right? Right now, there's no one working in those steel mills. But like, let's say Pearl Harbor happens again. You don't think there's going to be a bunch of people willing to work in those steel mills for free? Like, come on.
Wouldn't the knowledge be lost though? Like, I don't want to get too deep in.
Yeah. We're not knowledge be lost in a way, but they can be rediscovered again. I mean, it can't be that hard, right? Like it's you know, right? Like the U.S. invented it to begin with, or not invented it, but adopted it, right? Like the U.S. was quite successful in it to begin with, right? It's not,
Okay. Any closing thoughts before we end our Canada stream?
let's end on a good note, which is, I think in the future, Canada should be like, if we're to okay, so let's say we need to coexist with the U.S. Okay, and we can't be independent and stuff. What should we do? We should focus our efforts towards education and tourism. We just want
Doesn't
to
seem very appealing. Education seems like everyone's overeducated, and tourism, there's not much appealing in Canada, right? In terms of tourism.
in terms of tourism.
Yeah.
Well, that's because
It's too expensive. It's too expensive as well.
we haven't built out the infrastructure, right? So it's like, if we have this huge like tourism investment, right? We make it right. It's really hard to get into Canada right now. You know that it's like super hard. It's super hard to get a visa, right?
Well,
So
it
like,
depends on the country, right?
doesn't matter.
Because I think there's a lot of people that overstay their visas, right? That work.
Sure, but like, you know, that's bound to happen. So you just like, right, and you just do it the economic cost of that, right, versus the tourism that it brings in, and you sort of want to turn into like a Europe. I think like Europe will turn into that too, which is like you turn into like a tourist economy, and people will fight against that. But you know, it's when you're unproductive, like what else can you do? You know, you sort of hope that the productive people come spend their money at your place and they get educated at your place, right? And you can make your institutions, your education institutions, ever more elite, right? And that's one of the problems with like the Canadian education system.
I don't think it's education. This issue. It's like commercializing the research, right?
Yeah. So like
Like
that's what
insulin was invented in Canada. AlexNet, Ilya Sutskever, the OpenAI dude, he invented AlexNet there in University of Toronto. Like these are like one of the biggest inventions in human history, right? Like these two.
Yeah, so like Canada has this good reputation, right? It's how you can capitalize and how you can build on it, right? So you essentially you want like more prestigious universities, and you need to keep them prestigious. Okay, so it doesn't mean like, oh, let's build a bunch of, you know, campuses everywhere that like Toronto's, you know, all these universities are doing. No, it's charge even more for your universities. You know what I'm saying? It's like you have to maintain, it's sort of like in marketing, it's like you have to maintain your brand value. You know, and we've been diluting it, right? By like opening up all these campuses and taking more and more students. You know what I mean? Like you want to keep, Canada should build their version of the Ivy League. You know, and not for domestic purposes, for international.
Okay.
So that these elite institutions, you know, right? It's not about the domestic education problem. That's a different problem. Okay, that's a different thing that we can talk about how to tackle. But to address like the economics of like creating value and like getting funding from outside, how we can attract more.
I think the U.S. should just like just pillage the research again, right?
Pillage the research. It's fine, right? As long as, right? It's like them stealing Harvard's research. Harvard makes money from endowments, right? Like it makes money from the brand, from the reputation, right? Like what's a Canadian like elite reputation? You know what I'm saying? Right? Like even though everybody comes here for school, like elite education, like right? There's only like McGill and University of Toronto.
There's a research, right? Pure research. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're like respected, right, in terms of like international education. But it's like how they've been doing it is just you're like turning your brand, you're turning your Gucci into like LVMH. You know what I mean? Like it used to be some prestigious fashion house. Now it's just like, yo, I see this stuff on the street. Right?
Okay. Let's just leave it there.
Yeah.
Happy Canada Day.